Welcome back! This one's going to be a rapid video on how to produce a quick ruined city base. I've used this method for my Heresy era Imperial Fists. I've pictured them fighting over rubble of some undisclosed city which has been reduced to rubble by the conflict and the discriminate fire of a £1,600 Titan. And at that price tag you better believe you can live with the knowledge of what you did to those civilians, for the Emperor has never been bothered about war crimes. You won't need a lot for this, just some cork tiles off of Amazon, your selected sand and some plastic sprue. I'd also advise grabbing some PVA and super glue, and the hobby knife will go a long way to let you carve the cork up so it looks more like rock and less like your nan's notice board that you've nicked off with. Start with getting rid of the flat surface on both sides of the cork. This stops it looking like a cork tile and helps when dry brushing and gluing it down later. Next, take that knife and carefully cut at the edges. I tend to have the base on hand to make sure I don't cock it up and make it too big or small for the model that's going to be glued to the top of it. If your base is looking a bit naff still, try cutting in various places at a roughly 45-degree angle. I do a bit on top to stop it looking like that mate's hair from Street Fighter, and I also cut into the sides for a bit of variation. Less is more here because you don't want to bugger the structure. Using a bit of sprue, take your tools and cut and carve it up. This will represent broken support structures that are as dead and gone as the post office's rubble your model will soon be stood on. I always carve one end to be pointy and sharp to make it easier to stick into the cork. It will make your life easier to drill a hole into the cork by rotating your hobby knife at the point that you want your sticky bit to go into. These don't have to be support structures, you could also use them as fence posts and wrap barbed wire around them if you're feeling adventurous. Drop some super glue in and push the pointy end in deep. You could move on to painting at this point, but I always like to add a bit of sand to represent the dusty remains of, well, you get the picture, war crimes. Dead easy, slap some PVA down and then dunk it into the sand. I've been lazy here and used a Vallejo earth texture and dunked it in the sand instead, as I genuinely couldn't be bothered to get out of my chair and this was within reach of my orangutan arms. Once it's dry, hit it with some black spray and prep it for painting. To kick the painting process off, I dry brush the lot with Mechanica Standard Grey. If anyone is unsure on how to dry brush or doesn't understand what I mean, please let me know and I'll happily make a video to explain all the techniques I use. Continuing with the dry brush method, I highlight up with Dawnstone and finally Administratum. I'm recently converted to using Krieg Khaki as my girlfriend uses it religiously when she's weathering her Fallout miniatures. I like to dry brush this on the extreme edges and over areas which are meant to be more sandy or dusty. I personally really like the effect, it adds some much needed colour into what is otherwise just some grey rock. Let me know what you think. And for the best part of this entire hobby, it's tufts. I always super glue these down, although I've never had any fall off before the super glue days. I just guess it doesn't hurt to guarantee an outcome. My advice for basing is to always pick a tuft that contrasts with your army's paint scheme, so it will really help make them stand out whilst on the tabletop. I'd also recommend washing the sandy parts of the base with Agrax along with the lower rocks to add separation and a difference in colour. The nut support beams were also washed in this way and painted with Ironbreaker whilst off camera. Now to round off the paint job, I'd recommend painting the base rim black, taking 2 or 3 coats to ensure a nice solid coverage. Now I really hope this video is useful to some of you, and if you stuck around till the end, thank you for your time. But also, since you're still here, I don't think it's too cheeky to ask if you'd consider subscribing or at least liking the video. As always, I've replied to all my comments, so thanks for stopping by and I hope to see you on the next one.